Any write error causes a forced dismount of the disk group. All disks must be located to successfully mount the disk group. Normal redundancy Oracle ASM provides two-way mirroring by default, which means that all files are mirrored so that there are 2 copies of every extent. A loss of one Oracle ASM disk is tolerated. You can optionally choose 3-way or unprotected mirroring. A file specified with high redundancy, 3-way mirroring, in a normal redundancy disk group provides additional protection from a bad disk sector in one disk, plus the failure of another disk. However, this scenario does not protect against the failure of 2 disks. High redundancy Oracle ASM provides 3-way, triple, mirroring by default. A loss of 2 Oracle ASM disks in different failure groups is tolerated. What is multipathing? How ASM works with multipathing? Generally I/O path consists of components like LUN, an adapter, cable, switches, etc. These are configured between storage and server system. And in high availability ENV, we use multiple components, which provides us multiple I/O path options between storage and server, which helps in load balancing and failover in case of any path/component failure. Different vendors provided multiple pathing solution such as by EMC. IMC Power. Let's say the first path to disk/dev/rdsk/C12C. Second path to disk/dev/rdsk/C13C. Then EMC will create a pseudo device name called /dev/rdsk/empower1. ASM doesn't provide multipathing on its own. But we can incorporate third-party solution to ASM. So we can use ASMlib to make this /dev/rdsk/empower1 as ASMdisk and use it. For example, if you are configuring ASMlib with EMC's power path, you can use the following setup. Oracle ASM_scan exclude equals SD. Oracle ASM_scan order equals IMC power. Oracle ASM_scan order dictates the ASMlib scan order of the devices, using the generic prefix. Oracle ASM_scan exclude indicates which devices should not be discovered by ASMlib. What allocation unit, AU, in ASM? This is the fundamental unit of allocation in a disk group. Default AU is 1 MB, can be changed to 21, 32 MB, etc. In Exadata default AU is MB. This is a disk group attribute. So each disk group can have their own AU_size attribute. 1. What is ASM extent? Consists of one or more AU. A ASM file consists of one or multiple ASM extents. From 11G onwards, we have variable extent size.i.e. First 2, extent sets will have extent size equal to disk group AU_size. Next 2, extent sets will have extent size equal to *AU_size. Next 2, and higher will have extent size equal to 1 *AU_size. Why variable extent size? For each extent there is an extent map in shared pool. If the large databases use the default extent size, which is equal to A_size, then SGA memory requirement for ASM instance will be very high and it need to store a lot extent maps in memory. With variable extent size feature, database need fewer extents to describe an ASM file, and less memory to manage the extent maps in shared pool. For very large databases, should we use small AU or large AU? If the database is very big, then larger AU is recommended, because reduced SGA size to manage the extent maps in the RDBMS instance. Increased file size limits. Reduced database open time, because VLDBs usually have many big data files. In 11G, this has been eradicated by fetching extents only on demand. In Oracle 11G, only the first extents in the extent map are sent at file open time. The rest are sent in batches as required by the RDBMS. When rebalance happens, changes like adding, dropping disks, triggers rebalance operation. Rebalance operation provides even distribution of file extents and space usage across all the disks of a disk group. This is necessary for ASM to provide it balance I/O. Explain in detail how rebalance works. Let's say a new disk has been added. Then below is the sequence of rebalance. This triggers the RBAL process to create the rebalance plan and then begin coordination of the redistribution. RBAL calculates estimated time and work required to perform the task and then messages the ASM rebalance (RBX) processes to handle the request. ASM_power_limit decides how many number of IRBN processes will be created. The continuing operations directory (COD) is updated to reflect a rebalance activity. This is important because support the rebalance has failed in the middle, then the other instance can use this COD to either complete or roll back the rebalance operation. RBAL distributes plans to the ARBs. In general, RBAL generates a plan per file, however, larger files can be split among ARBs. ARBX performs rebalance on these extents. Each extent is locked, relocated, and unlocked. We can monitor rebalance operation from $ASM_operation. Let's say currently rebalance is running with power limit of. After running for 1 hour, we found that it is slow and we need to complete it quickly. Can we increase the power limit and what will be the impact on ongoing rebalance operation? Yes, we can increase the power limit of existing rebalance operations. As soon as we increase the power limit, additional ARB processes will be created and will try to complete the rest of the rebalance operation. What if we reduce the power limit to 2? In that case, the rebalance will be handled by 2 ARB processes. And those extra ARB process which were already running, then will finish their extent relocation and then they are closed. In your disk group, all the disks are of same size. But still when you find that disks are not balanced. What could be the reason? Either ASM disk was added with rebalance power of 0. Or previous rebalance by aborted due to any reason. Which was not completed after that. Is there any dependency between ASM and ASSM? No, there is no relation between them. Explain in detail what happens when an ASM file is created by Oracle database. Suppose a database wants to create data file inside ASM. First, a file creation request is sent from RDBMS to ASM, which include info like DG_name, file_type, size, block size, etc. through one process. ASM use this information to allocate the file by considering the redundancy and striping details as per template information received. After allocating the file, ASM sends extent map information to RDBMS instance. ASM creates COD entry to track pending file creation process. RDBMS instance then initialize the file and complete the process. After ASM receives the confirmation from RDBMS instance, LGWR will flush the ACD records. Then DBWR will write to allocation table, file directory information. If file creation is aborted in the middle, then ASM will use COD data to roll back the operation. Explain in detail what happens when an ASM file is opened by Oracle database. When ASM instance need to open an ASM file, RDBMS sends an open file request with the file name to ASM through on process. ASM gets the extent map information from file directory. Explain what you know about ASM metadata. ASM stores metadata to describe and track disk group contents. All of the metadata that describe the composition and contents of an ASM disk group are stored within the disk group itself, which makes each disk group self-describing. ASM has 2 main classes of metadata. Physical metadata. Virtual metadata. Physical metadata. They are stored in a fixed locations on the disk. This fixed location is necessary for ASM bootstrapping. This disk header, allocation table, AT, free space table, FST, partnership status table, PST, virtual metadata. File directory stores information about ASM files, name, size, type, striping, info, redundancy, in a disk group. Disk directory stores information about disks in a disk group. Active change directory, ACD. Continuing operations directory, COD, S template directory, alias directory. Attribute directory. Staleness directory. Staleness registry. 33. What is allocation table? Each ASM disk has an allocation table to track free and allocated space within the disk. This table contains each allocation entry, AT, for each AU, allocation unit. ATs are grouped into allocation table block, ATB. Unallocated AUs are marked as free in the allocation table. The free extents are kept in a linked list to facilitate quickly finding a free AU for allocation. What is free space table, FST? FST indicates which allocation table blocks, ATB, contains free AU. Whenever a disk is selected for allocation, then ASM consults FST, so that it can skip ATBs which are fully occupied. 3. What is partnership status table? What is the default ASM metadata block size? Metadata block size is K. Note that ASM metadata block size is independent of Oracle database files. What is Active Change Directory, ACD? Active Change Directory. It is similar to redo log in database. When the ASM instance needs to make an atomic change to multiple metadata blocks, a log record is written into the ASM Active Change Directory, ACD. ASM uses the ACD to perform crash recovery and instance recovery to ensure that the ASM metadata is consistent. What is Continuous Operation Directory, COD? This is similar to undo in database. Long-running operations like create/drop disk, rebalance activities are tracking via this file. If the long-running processes die before completing the process, then recovery process check this file, then either complete or roll back the task accordingly. 2 types of continuing operations. Background. Disk group rebalance is a background operation process. If rebalance fails or ASM instance crashes, then the surviving instance will refer this file to complete the process. Rollback. It is performed by foreground process. Foreground process performs on behalf of database instance. If creation of ASM file operation fails, then the partially created file need to be deleted. Example create/delete/drop file. 3. What is staleness registry? The staleness registry tracks allocation units that became stale when the disk is offline, possible only in normal or high redundancy only. The staleness directory contains metadata to map the slots in staleness registry to particular disk and RDBMS database. When a disk goes offline, each RDBMS instance gets a slot in the staleness registry for that disk. This slot has a bit for each allocation unit in the offline disk. When an RDBMS instance IO write is targeted for an offline disk, that instance sets the corresponding bit in the staleness registry. When disk becomes online, it checks the AU, who has this bit set, and copies the mirror extents for them. Explain how extent relocation happens in ASM disks. Relocation is the act of moving extents from one disk to another in a disk group, which mostly happens during rebalance operation. Relocation happens per extent basic. There are 2 scenarios. File close. For a given extent, if the file is closed, then ASM can relocate the extents without sending any messages to other ASM or RDBMS instances. File open. But for a given extent, if the file is open, then the ASM instance, which is handling this relocation, will first send a message to all the ASM instances that it is planning to relocate the extent. The ASM instances will again send messages to RDBMS instance using umbilicious.